In the bustling streets of Los Angeles, billionaire Sophia Reynolds faces a heartache no money can fix. Her 8-year-old daughter Lily has never walked. One day, fate leads them to a humble young mechanic, Ethan Walker. What starts as a simple act of kindness will change their lives forever. Watch as hope, determination, and an extraordinary bond come together to give Lily the gift of her first steps. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started. Sophia Reynolds was a name that echoed through every corner of Los Angeles. Her company, Rain Tech Industries, had reshaped technology, earning her billions and a seat among the nation's most powerful women. But despite all the luxury, all the flashing lights of success, her mansion often echoed with silence. That silence was born from her daughter's pain. 8-year-old Lily Reynolds, a sweet little girl with golden hair and soft blue eyes, who had never known the feeling of walking on her own. Sophia had poured her heart and fortune into finding a cure, but every doctor's promise ended the same way, with disappointment. Each morning, Sophia would wheel Lily to the garden where sunlight kissed the flowers. Lily loved to watch the butterflies, her innocent smile trying to hide her sadness. Sophia always knelt beside her, pretending to be strong, but her eyes told a different story, one of endless prayers that went unanswered. She'd whisper softly, "One day, sweetheart, you'll walk. Mommy promises." And Lily, believing her, would nod and smile, even though she didn't understand how broken her mother's heart really was. That particular morning, Sophia had a big meeting in downtown Los Angeles. She dressed elegantly in a white blazer, kissed Lily goodbye, and promised to bring her favorite cupcake on the way back. But fate had a different plan that day. As her black SUV rolled down the highway, smoke began to rise from the engine. She cursed under her breath as the car slowed and stopped near a small, dusty auto shop on the outskirts of the city. Stepping out in her heels, Sophia was visibly frustrated. She was a woman used to 5-star service, not oil-stained garages. But with no choice left, she walked toward the shop. Inside, the sound of metal clanking and rock music echoed. A young man emerged from beneath a truck, his shirt smudged with grease, his hands rough from hard work, but his expression warm and calm. "Ma'am, car trouble?" he asked politely. His name tag read Ethan Walker. Sophia nodded impatiently. "Yes, it just stopped. I have somewhere important to be." Ethan gave her a small nod, took a rag to wipe his hands, and walked toward the SUV. Within minutes, he popped the hood and got to work. Sophia stood there tapping her foot, her mind half on the car and half on Lily waiting at home. She didn't notice when her driver opened the back door, helping Lily out of her car seat so she could sit outside in her wheelchair. Ethan turned for a moment and saw the little girl, her curious blue eyes following his every move. He smiled softly and waved. "Hey there, princess," he said. Lily giggled shyly, holding a small stuffed bear in her hands. For the first time that day, Sophia looked up and saw her daughter smile, a real unforced smile that had become rare lately. Ethan crouched down beside her. "You like cars?" he asked. Lily nodded. "Maybe one day I'll build you something special," he added playfully, and her eyes lit up. Sophia watched the interaction quietly, something stirring inside her. There was something different about this young man, something genuine and kind. He wasn't impressed by her wealth or name. He just treated them like people. When the repair was done, he walked up to her and said, "It's all fixed, ma'am. But I noticed some wear in your spark plugs. You might want to replace them soon." She nodded, handing him her credit card, but he shook his head. "Cash only, sorry." "The machine's down." She opened her purse, realizing she only had large bills. Before she could say anything, Ethan said, "Don't worry. You can pay next time if you're ever around." The words shocked her. No one ever told Sophia Reynolds she could pay next time. It was such a simple act of trust that it left her speechless. Lily looked up and waved at him. "Bye, Mr. Mechanic." Ethan laughed and waved back. "Bye, little sunshine. You keep that smile shining." On the drive home, Sophia couldn't stop thinking about the mechanic's words. She had met thousands of people, investors, scientists, politicians, but none had shown her that kind of warmth. Later that night, while putting Lily to bed, Sophia noticed her daughter sketching something. "What are you drawing, baby?" she asked. Lily turned the paper around to show a stick figure with tiny braces on its legs, standing beside a man in a cap. "That's me walking," Lily said proudly. "And that's Mr. Mechanic. He said he'd build me something." Sophia's throat tightened. She didn't know how to respond. So she just kissed her forehead and whispered, "Sleep now, my brave girl." But as she turned off the light, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The next morning, Sophia's thoughts kept drifting back to that small garage and the kind young mechanic. She didn't understand why, but something inside her wanted to see him again. Maybe it was gratitude, or maybe it was the way he had made Lily smile without pity or sadness. That smile had been worth more than any therapy session or medical expense. So instead of heading to her office that day, she told her driver to take her back to the same auto shop. When she arrived, Ethan was busy welding something on an old bike frame. He looked surprised but smiled. "Back so soon?" he asked. Sophia smiled faintly and said, "Actually, I came to thank you. My daughter couldn't stop talking about you." Ethan laughed. "She's got a big heart. Reminds me of my little sister before she got sick." His voice cracked slightly, but he shook it off. "Anyway, I'm glad she smiled." Sophia looked at the half-built metal frame beside him. "You build things besides cars?" she asked. Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I like fixing stuff. Wheelchairs, scooters, sometimes prosthetics when people can't afford repairs. Just trying to help, you know." Those words hit Sophia deeply. For years, she had donated millions to charities, but had rarely seen the real kindness behind it. The kind that came from human connection, not publicity. That evening, Sophia invited Ethan to her mansion to look at Lily's wheelchair. He hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. When he arrived, the guards looked confused, letting a mechanic into a billionaire's home. Lily greeted him with a big smile, showing him her drawings again. Ethan knelt beside her, examining her wheelchair closely. "I think I can make it easier for her to move," he said thoughtfully. "Maybe even build something better." Sophia's heart raced. "You mean something that could help her walk?" Ethan paused, meeting her eyes. "I can't promise anything, ma'am, but if there's even a small chance, I'll try." That night, as Ethan left, Sophia stood by the window watching him disappear down the long driveway. She didn't know if his words were a dream or destiny, but one thing was certain: this poor mechanic, this humble stranger, had brought back a light she thought she had lost forever. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Lily that night. Her smile, her laughter, and her courage despite the pain, it reminded him of his late sister, Emma, who had battled a rare bone disorder and passed away when she was just 12. That memory gave him a purpose he thought he had lost. Sitting in his small garage, surrounded by metal scraps and tools, he started sketching designs on an old notepad. He wanted to build something that could change Lily's life, something that could give her the gift of walking. It wasn't about money. It was about hope. Sophia, meanwhile, couldn't sleep either. She stood by her daughter's bed, watching her sleep peacefully, clutching her stuffed bear. The idea of that young mechanic trying to help her daughter touched her deeply. For the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about deadlines or business meetings. She was thinking about faith, kindness, and the small miracles that often come from the most unexpected places. She decided she would support him in any way she could, no matter how impossible the task seemed. The next morning, Sophia visited Ethan's garage again. He was already at work, sparks flying as he welded together pieces of lightweight metal. She was amazed at his dedication. "You've already started?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled without looking up. "I told you I'd try, didn't I?" His voice carried quiet determination. He showed her the design, a set of motorized leg braces connected to a small battery pack. "It's experimental," he explained. "I'm not a doctor, but I've built prosthetics before. Maybe this could help her move." Sophia looked at the blueprint and felt tears form in her eyes. "Whatever you need, materials, equipment, anything, just tell me," she said firmly. But Ethan shook his head. "Thank you, ma'am, but I want to build this my way. If it works, it should be because of care, not cost." That humility stunned her. She wasn't used to people refusing her help. For once, she didn't argue. She simply nodded and said, "Then do it your way, Ethan." For the next few weeks, Ethan worked tirelessly. He often stayed up until dawn, his hands raw from welding and shaping metal. He tested motors, adjusted circuits, and studied biomechanics using old books and online videos. His small garage became a workshop of dreams. At night, when exhaustion hit him, he'd look at the photo of his sister on the wall and whisper, "Help me get this right." That memory gave him strength. Sophia visited occasionally, bringing food, and sometimes Lily, who loved watching Ethan work. She'd ask curious questions. Like, "What does that part do? And will I really walk, Mr. Mechanic?" Ethan always smiled and replied, "If you keep believing, kiddo, you'll run." Those words became her new hope. Sophia would watch silently from the corner, her heart warming with every interaction. Ethan treated Lily not as a patient or a project, but as a friend. One afternoon, Ethan faced a big problem. The metal braces were too heavy for Lily's small legs. He sighed in frustration, sitting on the cold floor, his dreams momentarily slipping away. That's when Sophia entered, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Rough day?" she asked gently. Ethan smiled weakly. "The design isn't working. I need lighter material, but it's expensive." Without hesitation, Sophia said, "Then let's get it." He hesitated, but she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Let me help, Ethan. You're not alone in this." This time he didn't argue. Together, they went to a supplier in the city and got the carbon fiber material he needed. Over the next few days, Ethan rebuilt everything from scratch. Each bolt and wire carried his heart in it. Sophia began to visit every evening, bringing dinner and staying to help however she could. Sometimes they talked about their lives. Ethan told her about his parents' small farm in Kansas and how he moved to LA chasing work. Sophia told him about her late husband, a pilot who died in a crash when Lily was 3. Slowly, the walls between their worlds began to fade. Finally, after almost a month of hard work, the braces were ready. Ethan placed them carefully on the table, polished and gleaming like silver hope. "It's time," he said softly. Sophia's hands trembled as she called Lily. The little girl wheeled into the garage, her eyes wide with excitement. "Is that for me?" she asked. Ethan knelt beside her. "Only if you promise to be brave." She nodded eagerly. Ethan gently attached the braces to her legs, adjusting the straps and connecting the small control module around her waist. The room was silent, except for the soft hum of the motors. "Okay, Lily," Ethan said quietly. "Try standing." Sophia held her breath. Slowly, Lily pushed herself up from the wheelchair. For a moment her knees trembled, but then she stood. Sophia gasped, her hands covering her mouth as tears streamed down her cheeks. "Oh my God," she whispered. Ethan steadied Lily, his voice calm and encouraging. One step at a time, Lily took a shaky step forward, then another, and another. The sound of her small footsteps on the concrete floor felt like music. Sophia fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably as she watched her daughter walk toward her for the first time. Lily laughed through tears, saying, "Mommy, I did it! I'm walking!" Ethan turned away for a moment, wiping his own eyes. He had built machines before, but never something that meant this much. Sophia hugged her daughter tightly, whispering, "You did it, baby. You really did it." Then she looked at Ethan, her voice trembling. "You've given me something no amount of money could ever buy." Ethan shook his head humbly. "No, ma'am. She did it. I just helped her believe." That night, Sophia invited Ethan to dinner at her mansion. At first he hesitated, feeling out of place among chandeliers and polished floors, but Lily wouldn't take no for an answer. "You're my hero," she said proudly, pulling him to the dining table. Sophia laughed for the first time in years, genuinely and freely. Over dinner, they talked not about business or success, but about dreams, kindness, and second chances. When Ethan finally left, Sophia stood at the doorway, watching him walk down the driveway under the starlit sky. She whispered a quiet prayer of gratitude for the man who had restored her faith in miracles, and for the miracle itself, walking upstairs on her own 2 feet. That night, as Lily slept peacefully, Sophia sat by her window, thinking about everything that had happened. For years, she had chased wealth and recognition, believing they could fill the emptiness inside her. But now she realized true wealth wasn't in what she owned, it was in moments like these. Moments born from compassion, courage, and love. And somewhere across the city, in a small, dimly lit garage, Ethan lay on his cot, exhausted but smiling. The hum of his tools had quieted, replaced by the soft whisper of satisfaction. He didn't need fame or fortune. All he needed was the memory of that little girl's first steps and the look of joy on her mother's face. Days turned into weeks, but the memory of Lily's first steps never faded from Sophia's mind. Every morning now began with the sound of her daughter walking slowly but steadily across the living room floor. The laughter that filled their mansion was something Sophia hadn't heard in years. Each step Lily took reminded her that miracles weren't born from wealth or power, but from love, determination, and the heart of one humble mechanic who refused to give up. Sophia knew she could never repay Ethan for what he had done, but she wanted to do something meaningful, something that would last. Ethan returned to his usual work at the garage, fixing cars and helping local families who couldn't afford repairs. Life for him hadn't changed much on the outside, but deep inside he carried a new light. Every evening when he wiped the grease off his hands, he'd smile, remembering Lily's laughter echoing in the garage. He didn't build that device for money or recognition. He did it because he understood what it felt like to lose hope. Helping her had healed something in him too. One morning, as Ethan was changing a tire for a customer, a black luxury car pulled up in front of the garage. The door opened, and out stepped Sophia, dressed simply this time, her hair tied back and her expression calm yet full of purpose. Ethan straightened up, surprised to see her again. "Ma'am," he greeted with a polite smile, "is the brace working all right?" Sophia nodded, her eyes softening. "It's perfect, Ethan. Better than I could have imagined. But I'm not here about that." She handed him a folder. Inside were documents and a letter with her company's seal. Ethan looked confused. "What's this?" he asked. Sophia smiled warmly. "A proposal. I'm starting a new foundation in your name, the Walker Project. It'll fund mobility aids for children across America who can't afford them. You inspired it." Ethan's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. "I don't know what to say," he whispered. Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder and said softly, "Just keep doing what you do. Change lives, one child at a time." At first, Ethan was overwhelmed. He never imagined his small act of kindness would lead to something so big. But when he saw the excitement in Sophia's eyes and thought about the children who could now walk, he nodded. "All right," he said, smiling. "Let's do it." Within months, the Walker Project became a nationwide initiative, helping hundreds of children receive mobility devices, braces, and prosthetics. News outlets began covering their story. The Hachi, billionaire mother, and the poor mechanic who changed lives together. But despite the attention, Ethan stayed humble, never letting fame change who he was. Lily, now stronger and more confident, often visited the workshop with Sophia. She'd help Ethan paint new braces in bright colors for other kids, adding stickers and drawing hearts. "Everyone deserves something pretty," she'd say with a grin. Ethan always laughed, calling her his chief designer. Sophia loved watching them together. In those moments, she saw a family, one built not by blood or class, but by kindness and shared purpose. One afternoon, Sophia invited Ethan to speak at a charity event in New York. At first, he refused. "I'm not good with speeches," he admitted nervously. But Sophia insisted, saying, "People need to hear your story, Ethan. They need to believe that kindness still exists." And so he agreed. Standing on a stage before hundreds of people, Ethan looked down at the microphone and took a deep breath. "I'm just a mechanic," he began. "I fix things. But sometimes what needs fixing isn't metal. It's hearts. I met a little girl who reminded me that hope isn't something you buy. It's something you build, with care, one piece at a time." The crowd stood in applause, some wiping away tears. Sophia's eyes glistened with pride as she watched him speak from the heart. After the event, reporters flooded him with questions, but he just smiled and said, "If you really want to help, go find someone who needs you. You don't need a foundation to do good, you just need to care." That quote soon went viral, printed in newspapers and shared across social media. But Ethan didn't chase the fame. The next day, he was back in his garage fixing a neighbor's old truck for free. Months later, the Walker Project opened its first children's rehabilitation center in Los Angeles. The grand opening was emotional. Children in wheelchairs, parents with tears in their eyes, and volunteers ready to serve. Lily stood proudly beside Ethan, cutting the red ribbon with her tiny hands. "For all the kids who want to walk again," she said cheerfully. Sophia looked at Ethan with gratitude, deeper than words. "You didn't just help my daughter," she whispered. "You helped me remember what being human means." Ethan smiled softly. "And you gave me a reason to believe again." Their friendship had grown stronger with time. It wasn't romantic. It was something purer, built on mutual respect and the bond of shared miracles. Sophia often said, "You may have been poor in money, Ethan, but you're rich in heart." He'd always reply with a grin, "Guess that makes me the luckiest man alive." One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Sophia hosted a small gathering at her mansion to celebrate the foundation's success. Children who had received help from the Walker Project attended with their families. Laughter filled the air, music played softly, and the sound of tiny footsteps echoed across the marble floors. Sophia stood beside Ethan, watching them all with tears in her eyes. "Look at them," she whispered. "All walking because of you." Ethan shook his head humbly. "Because of us." Later that night, when everyone had gone home, Sophia and Lily walked Ethan to his truck. Lily hugged him tightly, saying, "You're my best friend, Mr. Mechanic." Ethan knelt and smiled. "And you're my hero, little sunshine." He looked up at Sophia, who whispered, "Thank you, Ethan, for everything." He replied softly, "No, thank you for believing in me." Then he drove away, his old pickup disappearing into the night, leaving behind a story that would be told for generations. Years later, as the Walker Project expanded across America, Sophia often visited the original garage where it all began. She had turned it into a small museum, preserving Ethan's tools, his sketches, and even the first pair of braces he built for Lily. A plaque on the wall read, "This is where hope was built by hand." Every time she stood there, Sophia felt peace. And somewhere beyond the fame and fortune, Ethan continued to live simply, still fixing cars, still helping quietly. He never stopped believing that kindness could change the world. For him, Lily's first steps weren't the end. They were just the beginning of something beautiful. In the end, their story became a timeless reminder that compassion has no price tag. One poor mechanic and one grieving mother had proven that even in a world obsessed with wealth, the truest treasures were made not of gold, but of heart. And every time Lily took a step, somewhere in her laughter was the echo of that first promise, the promise that love, when pure, can perform miracles.